Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Brown Bag Bets, powered by BetSperts. We are your daily dose of quick hit handicapping and sports betting picks. I'm Alex Christensen, and joining me always is Andy. And we have a guest coming on. So anything quickly you want to say, Andy, before we jump into some picks and try to get through those so we can get our buddy on?
No, just that we're going to shake it up a little. You're starting with NBA because my Campbell Camels were down by like 30. They made a valiant effort, but I think maybe college basketball second. Maybe that mixes things up because I'm playing even uglier teams today. So let's just fire off with some NBA right away.
Yeah, one NBA play for me today. I like the under in Phoenix, Toronto. I'm seeing 218.5. I actually played 218 last night, so the market's moved just a touch against me here. I would play this down to 217 if it starts moving the other way. What I see here really is, Phoenix has the slowest pace in the NBA right now. Toronto, again, as you start to look at some of the numbers on average, is a little bit higher. When I start to pull out some of maybe their outlier games, things have slowed down for them. When I start to look at the matchup from a basketball perspective here, Toronto's got the guards to slow down and at least give some trouble to guys like Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and vice versa. Chris Paul's not going to have any trouble, trying to slow down Lowry and letting him do a lot of stuff. Maybe Van Vliet has a nice game here, but I'm not too worried about him scoring a lot of points. The big guy matchup should sort of cancel out here a little bit. And Anunoby's a guy who can slow down Booker, I think. So as I start to look at this game, I think it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be plodding. I think the teams are really going to struggle to find ways to score against each other here. So happy to sign up for another under in the NBA.
It worked out yesterday. A team scored 130 points, and it still ended up under, which is spectacular.
Thank God we got a good number there. I think it landed right on 226. And I told everybody to stop at 227 or 226.5, I hope.
Yeah, it did land right on 226. I don't know. The Nets are sort of back, I guess. They're back to what they were the first couple games. A couple quick hitters in college basketball. Hair game is on point. Yeah, I decided to forego the hat today. Again, you got to change your luck up somehow. New Mexico, this is a late game. I think I'm doing late game, early game today. New Mexico, maybe I should have done the other one first, but it's a tough spot. It's just a lot of points. I don't have much to say in either of these. These are just model plays. These are numbers I make off by a few points. I'm more than happy to get this where I think it should be closer to 10. The same goes for St. Joe's. St. Joe's let me down big time the last time we played them, and I won the rest of the games that day, but I'm also on St. Joe's. I believe that is the earlier game of the two. So hopefully it's one of those cases where I win the early one, because there's nothing like having split games like this, losing the earlier one, and then having to wait, like 9 hours for the other one to happen. So St. Joseph's, oh gosh, am I going to screw this up again? The Red Hawks? I think it's just Hawks. I think we're just going to go with Hawks, and New Mexico, the Lobos, right?
I think that's right. I think New Mexico might be the Lobos.
So anyway, those two, I put them up in the BetSperts app a little earlier. You can check those out. If I have anything else in today's slate or tomorrow, I'll definitely add those. And yes, St. Joseph's is a 4:00 Eastern game, and New Mexico is like 1:00 tonight. I might not even catch the end of that. The Hawk is dead. And then this is a good point. This guy says, didn't even watch sports yesterday, just watched my Bitcoin account. Yeah, Bitcoin is
fun thing to do lately.
Yeah. So a couple quick tennis picks before we get into a new sport for the week.
That's right. Still working our way into tennis. There's actually tennis on right now, folks. This is the beauty of tennis. As I talked about yesterday, it fills up all those hours you spend waiting for other sports to start. Had a couple nice winners already yesterday, so let's go back to the well. I'm going to start with just a money line pick here. Jessica Pegula, a girl from the United States, an upcoming player for me, someone who has really nice numbers. Now, she hasn't started to play maybe the top level competition yet, and in the few matches she has played, she's been competitive. She plays tomorrow against Alina Svitolina, one of the higher rated players in the WTA. But if you're someone that understands tennis from a matchup perspective, what Alina Svitolina is known for being is very smart and very athletic. She gets all over the court. It's really hard to get balls by her unless you have a lot of power, but Pegula has that level of power, and she's not really a sloppy player. So happy to take a swing at her here, knowing that she has, I think, all the tools that one needs to beat Svitolina. And haven't really seen much from Svitolina, obviously not much from anybody lately, but kind of going through social media, more pictures of her on boats and less stuff of her playing tennis. So happy to line up here in Pegula plus 200, again, just to win the match. And then we're going to have another total today. Arena Sabalenka is going to play Polona Herzog, and what should be kind of a fun match if you want to watch it. It'll be two women with a lot of power kind of smashing the ball back and forth. If you like tattoos, both of them have very interesting tattoos. Sabalenka's got like a tiger or something she keeps on her forearm to look at from time to remind her that she is a tiger. And then Herzog, I think it has basically a sleeve at this point. But both of them play a really fun brand of tennis, and it should be great. I think we're going to see a long match where the two of them hold serve here. So happy to take over 19 games. And again, the total, you add up all the games from every player. So what we're looking for here is something like 6-4, 6-4, so we can get to 20 games and cash the over. So like over 19 here. If you see a 19.5, that's fine too.
Yeah, she does have quite a few tats. I like her. I follow a lot of these tennis girls just like on Instagram. I don't watch a ton of it, but it is. I was gonna try to put you on the spot for like game times. I wanted to be better about that, but anybody who does follow tennis realizes that like it's super sketchy with that too, because they set up these order of plays, but it doesn't always work out. Where some matches longer, all of a sudden, it's like, oh, this is supposed to be a 7 p.m. match. Like, yeah, they're gonna start that at 9:30 because everything else took longer. So.
Yeah, hypothetically, Sabalenka and Herzog's going to start at about 2 in the morning on the East Coast, and then Pegula and Svitolina will be 7 on the East Coast. The nice thing about tennis is they never start before those times. So, worst case, you might get a chance to bet those a little bit later. But, if you're on the East Coast, try to get those the Sabalenka Herzog total in at least before you go to bed. And you'll have a chance to maybe get Pegula if you get up early. But, it looks like, again, Sabalenka Herzog will be overnight 2 a.m. on the East Coast, and early morning Pegula there at 7 a.m. So I'll try to do that. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it is middle of the night stuff. So, all right, basketball, tennis into, like I teased earlier, golf. We're going to bring in a golf guest. This is near and dear to my heart. I know a few golf guys. We'll mix it up a little, but this is just the easy one right away.
Well, he's our favorite. He's my favorite.
He's easily a favorite. So.
He's the reason I don't handicap golf. He takes care of it for me.
He does take care of it.
For me to waste my time.
I got into golf. Mr. James Mazzola of the For-Profit Podcast. You can find him on Twitter. JMaz, JD. The JD stands for Juris Doctor, I'm assuming. Or that's just what we call him. But without further ado, how you doing, JD?
What's up, boys? How we doing?
Oh, you even racked out in your Washington gear. I like that. So
we're doing good. It's a little chilly here this morning in California somehow, so I had to get the sweater going.
Oh, that's sad.
Not a great tournament to start. Like, it's fun. Golf is back, and it's fun. It's fine, but like, explain to people why this is a messed up tournament.
So
the format.
It's a tournament of champions, which means you're supposed to have won a golf tournament to be able to qualify for this. It's a yearly little pitch and putt, hit and giggle type thing to get your taste buds a little wet, so to speak. So normally you're going to have a bunch of guys who won, but there's this thing called COVID that's canceled like half the tournaments last year, so they don't have enough winners to field a full event. So they're like, let's just throw in the top 30 from last year's rankings. So you got a bunch of guys like, Tony Finau and Deki Matsuyama who haven't won in decades who are able to play in this tournament in beautiful Hawaii. It's a gorgeous course. It's a fun tournament for these guys, I'm sure. But, it's going to get like 32 guys. Half of them have no chance because they're just terrible and they won like off-season events or something, or off, calendared events when there's a major going on or something stupid. So, it's fun. You do have a lot of the top guys playing in this tournament. I think it's like 8 of the top 10 in the world are here. So you don't have Hatton and you don't have the other Irishman there, Ricky Fowler. What am I talking about? Rory McIlroy are not there. So other than those two, you got a bunch of guys up top. So it's star-studded, but ultimately it's just more of a birdie fest and they're just enjoying the beaches.
Yeah, and is that I've talked. Obviously, I'm in golf chat with you. There's been plenty of golf talk. We've done a little of this. Like, is there something to be said for motivation here? Like, there's guys, there's guys that take this seriously. Like, mostly because they aren't, I guess, not programmed to have fun, and nobody else likes them. Also, like Patrick Reed's not going out and having fun with the other guys because nobody wants to hang out with him. So like somebody like that's maybe more motivated than some of these guys. You do see this where they treat some of these Hawaii tournaments as like, yeah, my yacht's parked off the thing, I'm just playing here because they're giving me a bag, or I won a tournament. I might go play golf in Hawaii.
Yeah, it is interesting because this is the one tournament where you try to gather news because you don't have much stats to go off of. These guys haven't been playing for a month. Last time we saw most of these guys play competitively was the Masters in the middle of November. So, you don't have a lot to throw into the model when it comes to short-term, form. So then you hear like about the guys say, I haven't picked up sticks in a month, or I had COVID and, I haven't been playing at all. They're trying to peak it for April. And you don't do that now unless you're a fucking lunatic like Bryson and Patrick Reed are. So, those guys are, they're ready to go. The one thing you do get here is you get some easy FedEx Cup points. The winner here does get a full allotment of points. And it's interesting because the winner here over the past, you can go back all the way to when Tiger was winning this thing every single year, has come from the top of the market. Peak Jordan Spieth won, peak Zach Johnson won, DJ has won twice, JT has won twice, Xander's won here. All those guys were less than 20-1 to win this golf tournament. So despite the fact that, you do have a smaller field and the motivations are questionable, the winner seems to come from the top of the market every single year. So, I'll be looking there for an outright. But, this is kind of just – we're going to take this somewhat lightly and trying to rely on some news rather than any numbers that we may be able to come up with.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough market to bet into, especially like I'm getting the hold on these outright markets is tough anyway. But once you start wiping out some of these guys that just aren't going to win a birdie fest, don't have the chops to win something like this, it does take out the fun of, anyone who follows you and sees your cards throughout the season, there's always some long shots, some big numbers. Just like this guy he fits this course. He's mispriced. He should be 50-1. Maybe he's 100-1. Like it's just not that kind of tournament. So that it kind of takes the starch out of it there. But and the smaller field is, it's going to give you a smaller menu of matchups as well. So it's not as fun. But do you have a couple guys are there some numbers that are still available that you could recommend?
Yeah, in the long shot.
I haven't bet on this yet.
In the long shot category, in terms of outright numbers, there are two guys that I just had too much value on that I had to take. Jason Kokrak is anywhere from 70 to 75. I'd make him a lot closer to 35, 40. This is a guy who absolutely bombs it. He'll be able to take advantage of these giant wide fairways. These fairways here at Plantation Course Kapalua, you could literally land like 747s on these things. Like they are giant. They were supposed to make them fast and firm and make them hard to where they ran out prior to last year, but we didn't really see that. It was 14 under made the playoff. Xander, Reed, and JT, but that was when there was insane wind. You're not going to see wind this week, so you're going to get into the 20s. I don't really see the changes really mattering much. So you got a guy like Kokrak who just absolutely bombs it. He'll be able to have wedges into these greens, which you need to be able to hit close, and his approach game is very solid as well. Adam Scott, similar thing, one of the best iron players in the world. You do need a close proximity because the greens are absolutely huge and they're relatively undulated, so they're going to tuck them in areas that are the flatter spots. You need to be able to get the ball to the pins. Those two guys specifically, just because of their skill set, fit this well. Scott's won here before. I'm not a big course history guy, as you guys know, but it's nice to have a guy who has shown success on the golf course. And then your JT. That's my other guy. I may have a small edge on him. I think he should probably be a lot closer to DJ in this market as the favorite. Wonderful. Obviously, he's the best iron player in the world. So when we're talking about getting it close to the pin, he's the guy you're going to go to immediately. Just needs to get the putter going. But those are my three favorite plays in the outright market.
Yeah, it does make a lot of sense. And it's interesting to hear you talk about it because, again, I know you have a little bit of a model that you're used to working with, but to hear you go through that kind of qualitative process, it makes sense that, Dustin Thomas is kind of the favorite. So it sounds, again, like you're looking for guys that are big hitters because they have space, but you're also looking for guys that are kind of better iron players or maybe wedge players. If you had to pick maybe one of those categories, which of the two would you focus on maybe?
It's strange because when you have a small event like this, we obviously have a smaller sample of years past as to what's been successful, right? Because you have 30 to 40 guys who play this, and a lot of them just fucking suck, right? So they're not guys who you even want to try and grab because they careered it one week and they get in this tournament. They're not someone you really want to take a sample from.
Yeah, is Herman playing?
What's that?
Is Herman playing?
No, he's one of that, which is wild because he should be here. Why the hell isn't he? Maybe he's also like 55 and probably doesn't want to get COVID. So I don't know. He's old. He should be playing, but he's not. It's Herman, McIlroy, and Hatton are the three guys who decided to sit this one out from the winners of last year. But generally speaking, week after week, and this could just be a more of a long-term thing. You want guys who hit it close. That's what Tiger did at the best at his peak and why he was so successful. It wasn't because he was the longest guy. It's because no one in the history of golf has ever hit his irons closer to the pin than he does, right? So week to week, you're going to want to do that. This week, it really will take an all-around game because the greens are pretty wacky. When they redid them, I guess they put a ton of undulation in them. You're going to have a lot of long putts because they're absolutely huge. It's a resort course, right? So it's not going to be a difficult course. Like bad players are usually bad chippers. They're usually a little bit better putters. So you want big greens when you're on the resort because you're not going to have a 5.5, 6 hour round when guys are just, they can just putt and, get it somewhere close to the hole. So when you have resort courses like this, the putting, 3-putt avoidance can be key. Although, if you're going to birdie fest, you're not really going to want to be 3-putting. So I'm always going to be looking at guys who hit it close. To this week, it should be a little more of a factor just because of the undulations and the fact that these pins are going to be tucked in areas where if you're going to make a birdie, you're going to want to be on the right pot zone.
Yeah, I like what you said about it being a resort course. That's an interesting little piece of commentary.
I have a real question.
Okay.
But I had to get to this one first. You want to price this?
I love it.
As noted Ricky
Wow.
haters, we're fine with that. Like even.
It's probably even money. I look at Charlie's. Charlie's probably, he's got. Let's see, how old is he? 13. So he'll probably win his first tournament at 19. I would imagine 1 year at Stanford. 6 years was Ricky win a tournament. Yeah, even money sounds about right.
Ricky betting against Ricky is one of my favorite things to be doing. Stupid flat bill, and
especially on
your bill is dangerously flat to be talking shit about Ricky right now.
Hey,
but,
man.
Real talk is
that's not that horrible color orange.
Yeah,
that's true.
You taught me a little golf. You taught me some modeling. We found some places for stats. We talked a little bit about how to use some of those, and I did okay with it. And then I got into last January and I just got smoked.
Yeah.
Because I was using weird samples. You got players didn't play the same. It said, I'm looking at the last 24 rounds for 2 players. Well, one golfed at completely different tournaments. One golfed over in Europe or Abu Dhabi and wherever else they were. And I didn't see any of these results. So I guess this time of year is more informational for some of that. You talked about digging into this guy's played here. This guy has taken this kind of break. This guy had COVID. Like, where are you going to find that information right now? Because I think that's what I was missing last year was
for sure.
I bet against a guy because he had bad rounds in his last 12 rounds. Well, those rounds were in October.
Yeah.
And he's overseas just crushing it. I think maybe South Africa or something.
Sure.
He just won a tournament in South Africa. I'm like, well, I didn't know that. It doesn't show up at the PGA stats.
Yeah, it does make it interesting, especially this time of year, because there's what the European Tour does, what they call a desert swing. And those guys, the Saudis and all those guys have so much money that they'll just pay the best American players to come play in the tournament. Last year it was interesting because we saw Bryson go over there and that's where he kind of unveiled his, an insane driver swing where he's just hitting it 40 yards by guys. And everyone's like, oh my gosh, the common person who just, casually follows golf didn't see that. But I immediately put in all the Bryson bets I could for majors because this guy was absolutely dominating over on the European Tour in that quote unquote desert swing. The problem is, what I do in this time of year is I just use a lot more long-term form, right? Like I'm not trying to take much from the last 12, last 24. I'll grab last 50, last 100 and just try and pick off. And again, and to me, I use that stuff throughout the entire year. I just don't implement the short-term stuff until, to be honest, March is when I feel like I have the firmest grasp on what's going on. And even my numbers suggest that. So the first 2 months, I'm just trying to stay afloat. And I'll just pick off things where the news, I think, gives an edge, and just having more information and watching golf and being an absolute nerd of golf gives me that edge. By March, usually around the Honda, right before the Players, now I can start using the model and really dive in on not only the informational advantage I have, but then the statistical side too. So starting in March, and you can even look at last 3 years, my unit tally has just absolutely skyrocketed. Pre-COVID, it was wild how well we were doing. And then after COVID, a lot of the same stuff held. There was a I treated it like I would with the new season where we didn't know what these guys were doing for 2 months while the shutdown was going on. So that it worked out, and obviously post COVID was phenomenal. But generally speaking, long-term form will typically catch itself up, and that's how those guys play, right? It's very rare that a dude is all of a sudden, his last 100 rounds he's been absolutely terrible, then he turns into the best golfer in the world. It's just not really
Danny Berger.
Possible. So yeah, exactly. So
I mean, there are guys that
injuries.
There are guys that came out of the COVID break hot, and it's oh, Berger is a top 10 golfer all of a sudden. What the hell happened? And there were guys where it's oh, you didn't play around, man.
Yeah.
You can tell you're rusty, you're bad. This is not the form you should be in. And you just kind of put and earmark those guys, be yeah, we'll check him out in a few weeks once he's got a few holes underneath them.
And I think that's important. Like you have to be able to change your, change your stuff. Like you can't just be set in your ways. Like I was a big Gary Woodland fan. I thought he was going to have a wonderful year. It came out in the early season. I was backing him, but he had said that he got super sick during the fall, during the fall season, and he hadn't been playing golf for like 2 months. So when you get that information, you kind of got to throw your stuff out and start from scratch, right? So it's to me, informational it's gonna play more factor early, and then once we get into the season, I'm not only using that information, but now that statistics can try and play a part as well.
Gotcha. Cool. Well,
love it.
We're ready.
We only got like 10 minutes of you, but if you want a whole crap load more, James talking golf every week, I mean, tell them about your podcast.
Yeah. So we then real quick. So this week for two of the guys that you're using informational edges. Xander and Webb both had COVID and haven't been playing, so I'm just going to be fading them in full tournament head-to-heads with players who are maybe even better than them. I think there's a couple of mispriced guys with those without that being the case. So podcast, For Profit Podcast, you can find it anywhere. You can subscribe to the podcast. JMaz JD, and then I release a full card on Wednesday. There's so many fucking bets on this card that if you can't find something you like, I don't know, I can't help you, right? I mean, there's just a lot of information on there. So every Wednesday afternoon that'll be it, and basically from now until tour championship in the fall.
I love those pictures. It's like a deli menu, like with all the sandwiches. Like I love this. You got the sides, the entrees.
You have some OCD on your cards. I'll give you that. So
it's try to keep it clean for the people.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, so, all right, cool. James, thanks for joining us. And yeah, let's we're gonna call it a day. We'll do a quick recap.
Perfect.
Oh, what did we have? So let me get back to my recap. A little basketball. St. Joe's, New Mexico. A little bit of other basketball. Phoenix, Toronto under. Phoenix, Tampa Bay under, I guess we'll call it. And tennis, folks. I'll just say tennis.
Sabalenka,
Hercog. I can say these names. Pagula, 2-1. A cute little underdog, 2-1. Actually, she's not cute. Pagula, 2-1. She's just all right. 2-1.
She is rich though. Her dad owns the Bills.
Her opponent is very good looking. So, other than that, we'll catch you guys tomorrow. No Thursday night football, but I think we'll probably talk a little more NFL as we're getting more and more news as we head into Wild Card Weekend. So, thanks for joining us.